you guys? A moment.
There's too many to mention. I think, God, all those early sessions we did with Peter Asher were all revelatory and all brilliant, and we all learned a tremendous amount of stuff from him.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, working on those Don Henley records was an amazing thing.
Right, which we didn't even cover here. Your work with Henley.
You should have, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And then we'll remember that we did that.
I swear it's in here. It's in here. Hold on. Right there, right there. I'll read it verbatim. Danny, you work with Don Henley on some terrific albums. How did you come to work with him?
I don't remember. Too late. Actually, Henley had left the Eagles had broken up, and Glenn made it a solo album. And actually, much of us played on it. I played on it, in fact. And Don, I think, realized at that point he was going to have to do something. He was going to have to make a solo album. So he started calling everyone in LA, all the cats, everyone we knew, to come up to his pad and jam with him. And I knew the phone was going to ring. I knew the phone was going to ring, and I knew that if I did go up there, I was going to get the gig. I just did it. And sure enough, that's what happened. I went up there, and I played him a few ideas that I had. And he said, "Oh, you want to make this album with me?" I said, "Yeah." And we started hitting it off right away. And Henley and I would sit around, first of all, we would discuss what he wanted to say and what he wanted to write about. And then I would go home and start making demos and working up stuff. You play him a demo, he goes, "I can sing to that." That means we're going to record it. We're going to start recording it right away. So that was an incredible situation. Also, the fact that there was no budget. There was no constraints of any kind. There was nobody telling us, you got to do this, you got to do that. And, you know, any piece of gear, for instance, that we wanted, Don would turn to his aide-de-camp, Tony Tape, and say, "Tony, get it." Like we heard about a DX7, the Yamaha DX7. And get one. 2 days later, the first DX7 in the United States shows up at the studio. Stuff like that. So that was a brilliant thing. And also, just working with a cat that had so much to say and was such an incredible singer as Donna, it was just unbelievable to work with somebody, to have that much input into a project with a guy that had that much to say and was so good at saying. So that was a standout.
And for him, it seems as though if he could sing it, if it's something he could grab onto vocally, that was it.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Wait.
As far as live work goes, one of the most exhilarating moments to me, still, and it happens every time we do it, in all the years I've been working with Phil Collins, every time that Phil comes up in the air tonight. Now, we just finished playing South America, and we were doing 60,000 people a night in the stadium, and you see all these arms come up to do an air fill with sticks. And it's just like we all look at each other and get goosebumps every time that tension builds up to that. But in the studio, for me, it's like these weird little projects to me that are the ones. I did 2 albums with Andy Griffith, and he won a Grammy for the first one. It was contemporary gospel, because he loved that, and he had his guitar that he played on the Andy Griffith show with him. And I'm sitting there in the studio, and I'm just like looking next to me. My wife's here tonight, she was there too, but I'm just finding myself like pinching myself, going, "It's Andy Griffith." I could have cared less if I was in with Peter Gabriel or anybody like that. Andy Griffith is sitting right next to me. So to me, that's one of the most exciting things about the studio. It's all these little things that happen in that. It's a really interesting, road to have traveled with all these different artists.
Was Andy doing a lot of blow at that time?
I'll tell you, the best quote that came out of that session was, Andy, this was like after Matlock, he had this beautiful thick white hair, and he looked at me and he said, "Who would have thought I'd have all this hair and Opie'd be bald?"
I have no idea how to follow that. So we got time for a question or two from the house. Yes, first hand I saw right there.
How often were you guys given charts telling you exactly what to play versus just make something up? And which did you prefer?
In my case, it was, I could read pretty well when I was 17 or 18, but I lost the ability to read because I was only hired to be myself. I was only hired to play stuff I already played. And it was hard to have, they wanted that style, whatever style it is. And so I would basically only be reading rhythm charts. That's not true with Leland, though, who can read fly shit, is the expression.
Some of it is.
Yes. Yeah, right there.
Every time you left the session, how often did you get the feelings that that's going to be a hit? Could you tell?
Yeah, did you know it was a hit?
There are some times where you could walk out, and I looked at the producer of Betty Davis Eyes after we cut that track, and I said, I guarantee you this is a smash. And it was, because it just reeked of it. And everything on that record is live. Every sound, every vocal that Kim sang, everything went down at once. And it was mixed by our dear friend Nico Bolas, did a rough, what they call a monitor mix that night in the studio, when the headphone mix was the mix. And as the time went by and they tried to remix it, they could never better it. So the mix that went out was the same rough mix from the night we cut it. But yeah, there are times you know it's going to be a smash.
And how often that you know, I hear that story so often that you know the rough mix, the demo, the first kind of pass through where all the emotion and all and really maybe you're not absolutely certain of the song, but that's what ends up.
Sometimes, yeah. It's a thing that session players, we wind up calling it demo love, where you walk in the studio and people want to. You play them the song, you get an idea. They go, no, listen to the demo. Yeah, well, why don't you just use the demo? Because a lot of times they can't get away from it. And I understand it. I mean, it's a thing. You get used to hearing what you bring in, and you're afraid to move away from it.
Who else? Yes.
I think there are probably a lot of people in the theater that are liner notes readers. And I know growing up and reading more and about liner notes, that's how I got to know you guys and following you from session to session. It's so great to see you all together and enjoying each other. Sometimes we see people here that we can strangle each other. Sincerely having
Who said we liked each other?
That would not be me. Not me.
Who would be some artists that you could mention that are maybe unsung heroes that you learned about as music nuts growing up?
Or people you came across in the studio that perhaps are not as well known.
Well, Waddy.
Okay, there we go. We got time for one more. Way in the back. Yes, hi.
Who would you like to work with that you haven't had the opportunity to do so?
Oh, good. Who do you want to work with?
Russ got to work with him, but I never did, and I'm such a huge fan. I never got to work with Winwood.
Here, here.
That's a good one, yeah.
Here, here.
That's Peter Gabriel. Love Peter Gabriel.
Gabriel. Yeah, that's a good one too. Look, here's what I know. I am so pleased that you guys took the time to come down. The time for talking is through. We want to hear you play. So, ladies and gentlemen, Leland, Sklar, Kortchmar, Russ, Kunkel, Waddy, Wachtel, Steve Postell, the immediate family band.